Hello, I'm Steven,
And I'm Aaron.
and we've just seen Michael,
Michael.
new film that's out in theaters right now, starring Jafar Jackson, Coleman Domingo, and Nia Long, and is directed by Anton Fuqua. So, as the title suggests, the film chronicles Michael Jackson's career from his status as a child prodigy working under the thumb of the evil Joe Jackson to adult pop sensation struggling to go independent to his eventual ascension into godhood. So, what did you think of Michael?
I liked it for the most part, although I think you and I are going to have pretty much the same exact problems with it. I will say this didn't go as far as I thought it was going to into just being a movie where you go watch actors and Hollywood people recreate all of Michael's biggest hits and music videos and performances. And that's really all there is. There actually is something of a story and an arc here.
The key word is something,
Yeah, yeah.
not much. I was very entertained by the movie as I was watching it, but even as I was watching it, I was noticing something that every step of the way the movie was using the spectacle of Jafar Jackson accurately recreating the persona of Michael Jackson to distract away from not only the mediocrity of the script,
Yeah.
but also from the truth behind the man.
It's a very kind of like sanitized and clean version of his story.
Yeah, they scrub the record clean.
Well, they go out of their way to make it seem like and this is true that like Michael Jackson obviously had a very tough upbringing because of his father. His
Yes.
father was a known piece of garbage.
Yes.
Obviously, they're not going to get into any of the stuff as an adult, and there is a lot more of it that would come in the second half of his life, which is what I'm assuming this part 2 is going to chronicle, but
Yeah, if they make it.
there's well, they make it very clear by the end of this movie that there is going to be another one. But there is so much stuff that they have to cover that I wonder if they're going to cover. Like, are they going to do the baby dangling incident? Are they going to do the court cases and all of that stuff? Are they going to do the kids sleeping in the beds? Or are they going to do all of the stuff that they need to do to tell the story?
No clue. I question whether that thing will even be getting made, despite the fact that this movie ends with a subtitle stating "His story continues."
Yeah, but this first part, the first half of his career, it really is the story of Michael Jackson fighting to be his own man and step out of from under his father's thumb and out of like the shadow of the Jackson Five and be his own thing.
After the movie was over, I was walking home and I realized a really damaging issue with this movie that lowered my opinion of it severely, even though I already didn't think it was a great movie. But the thing that really lowered my opinion of it was that there's not one scene in this movie, not one, that depicts Michael Jackson in either a critical
No,
or negative light.
no, not a single one. Not that I can recall, at least.
About the closest they get to that is Michael being insecure about his appearance and getting a nose job, which even that is something that can be traced back to his father's abuse when he calls him Big Nose as a kid. Outside of that, there's nothing in this movie.
That's one of my big issues. Is they really do paint him to be like this kind of saintly figure.
Yeah, I really like that Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie that was released in 2022.
Yeah,
And one of the things I really liked about that movie is that it does depict Elvis Presley as a fallible human being. That movie doesn't ball wash Elvis the way this movie does. This movie is a blowjob in the cinematic form.
pretty much. It's kind of the same thing you were saying. I was very entertained by it while I was watching it. There were a few times where I was like, there are some very like clear problems with the script and just the general flow of the story. It kind of follows the same formula that every biopic does. It doesn't really differentiate itself too much from anything else we've seen. There really is just like the father element that they zero on and
Yeah, it's an
that
abundance of cliches.
yeah, it feels like most biopics you've seen.
All throughout the movie, it seems like the only conversations he really ever has with his parents who aren't Joe Jackson is his mother telling him stock lines like, "You were meant for great things. You're going to go on to be something
Yeah,
special,"
yeah.
so on and so forth. Like the actual Jackson siblings, holy shit, they have no
They
role in
have
this whatsoever.
nothing to do. There's no sense of what his relationship is to the rest of his family, especially since he spends most of his career with them.
When he's not out touring and stuff, he stays his ass at home all day in his palatial mansion, surrounded by the Jacksons, but we don't ever see them.
Yeah, it's
And
very awkward.
not to mention, in the latter half of his career, when he starts to go independent and he desires to be his own man, I would imagine that would have some kind of effect on the Jackson brothers. Like, are you trying to push us away, Michael? We don't get to see anything about their psychology.
Yeah, it's kind of odd because I was thinking about that show they did a few years ago, the Selena show,
Yeah, me too.
how it was not critical at all of its central figure, but the show seemed to be more about the family than it was actually Selena. This one's kind of got a similar problem, but it does something different than that show. It features the family heavily, but doesn't focus on any of them. You don't know who any of these people are whatsoever, and it also sanitizes the story and paints the main character to be like I said, this saintly figure.
Yeah, it features the family insofar as it shows them every
Yeah,
once in a while. Like his mother is so passive as a non-entity. The only one with any kind of character is Joe Jackson,
yeah,
and
which
really,
is a shame because you got Nia Long in there, and she
yeah,
can do work. It would be nice to see her do more than just like you said, saying like platitudes, basically.
yeah, only Joe Jackson has any kind of personality, and really his only character trait is he's evil.
Pretty much, and as poorly written as his character is, he's one of the most enjoyable things about the movie because Coleman Domingo like eats this role up.
Yeah, he's a wonderful actor, and in a lot of ways, he's the MVP of the movie.
Yeah, it's he's like Charlie Murphy, but with like these weird like snake eyes almost. He's just an evil guy.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's so ridiculous. It's him and Don King plotting.
Yes, okay. I wanted to talk about that scene in particular. But yeah, Coleman Domingo, he's got like this permanent scowl slash pucker that he has going, and he's got this ridiculous permed hair. He like full on kind of a cartoon character, but
Yeah, an eventual Jerry Curl.
yeah, that's probably what I was trying to think of, Jerry Curl. But yeah, there is a scene with him and Don King where it is like two Snidely Whiplashes scheming together about how they're gonna ruin Michael Jackson's life and take over the world.
Yeah, they're yeah, they're dressed up in their best suits. They look like mob bosses. They're
Yeah,
sitting in chairs in front of an unlit fireplace, and they're talking like this. There's a lot of
dude,
opportunities that
I
Pepsi is giving us.
I thought that Coleman Domingo was playing both characters because they looked similar, and two, they had the exact same voice. They were both doing that kind of growly, sinister plotting.
Yeah, that was gold. That was hilarious.
It was like the best and the worst scene in the movie just because of how cartoonish and over the top it was.
Yeah,
And it also doesn't help the matters that they're talking about the Pepsi deal. Man, it just feels so sinister in this movie, in
yeah.
this the way it's portrayed here. We got this big deal with Pepsi we can do. What do you say about that?
We're gonna do the victory tour.
Yeah, we're gonna do the victory tour forever. Just yeah, cartoon villains.
And on the other side of the coin is Jafar Jackson, who's doing a great job replicating Michael.
That's the thing. Like I feel like he's doing a great job. At the same time, there is kind of that part of my brain where I'm thinking like, do I only think this is good because he's like replicating it, and is he actually able to emote through his impersonation? And I felt like he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, Michael was a character.
Yeah, it's like if you can do the voice, and if you can do the dances, and if you're made up to look like the character, that's one thing. But you still have to be able to act and give a performance through all of that while still feeling like the character. And I felt like he did a pretty good job with that.
And there were times in the movie where he looked dead on, just like
Oh
Michael
yeah,
Jackson, like resurrected. But then there were other times when the makeup was too prominent and he started to look uncanny. And it didn't
yeah,
help that in the latter half of the movie, I imagine they had to CG his nose.
yeah. I don't know what they did. Did they give him like a prosthetic to give him a bigger nose in the earlier scenes, or did they kind of shrink it down with CG
That's what I think. I
later?
think in the early half of the movie, that's probably his real nose, and then later it's CG to look
Yeah.
slimmer.
Well, like you said, Michael goes through so many transformations that sometimes the makeup is very obvious, like what they're doing to make him look like Michael Jackson. But it must be like a really difficult task considering how much he does change over his career. But yeah, his performance is pretty great, actually. The one thing that I do wish, and I don't, maybe he just can't do it, but I always like it better when the actors are actually performing the songs rather than having the original recordings play.
Yeah, I didn't see the movie, but I know they did that for Bohemian Rhapsody, and I'm pretty sure they did that for the Ray Charles movie too.
Yeah,
Another thing that kind of bothered me is it seems like they would introduce a plot line or a potential storyline or a direction the movie could go in and then just not do it. Like early on in the movie, when Michael is a child prodigy, he takes a liking to the producer, the recording producer,
oh
Mr.
yeah,
Gordy. And it seems like there's going to be some conflict between Mr. Gordy and Joe Jackson because Michael seems to be looking up to him more as a father figure than his
yeah.
real father, but then it just goes nowhere.
Yeah, it's stuff like that, especially in the early goings, I thought was actually pretty interesting, and I would have liked to see
Yeah,
how that stuff turned out. But like you said, it's dropped immediately because we have to keep aging this character up. So we can never stick with one plot line for too long because the character is constantly growing.
yeah, I thought the whole Jackson 5 storyline could have been like a movie in itself.
Yeah, I almost I hate to overextend things, but I almost wonder if this should have been like a three-part story. Like
Yeah,
you tell the early story of him as a child in the Jackson 5, you tell the story of him becoming Michael Jackson in the first half of that career, and you tell the third part with like the
the
nose
scandals and
jobs and the
everything.
scandals and the skin and all the incidents and the court cases and stuff like that.
Because things happen so fast in this movie. At the beginning of the movie, Joe Jackson and family are a poor family living
Yeah.
from humble beginnings, and then 20 minutes later, they're in a
Yeah, yeah,
mansion.
for real. It's so fast. You almost don't even realize they were ever poor.
Yeah,
Coleman Domingo's got this whole speech. Y'all want to end up in the steel mill like your daddy, and
yeah,
it's like you said, 2 seconds later, he's rich. He's counting money at his table.
yeah. Oh, and the other storyline that felt like they were or not necessarily a storyline, but the movie seemed like it was putting a lot of importance on his chauffeur Ben.
Yeah, well,
And I know he's got an album named Ben, so I don't know if that's the connection, but that is not explored in the movie. It just
I think I think it's really just there, and it could be like the same with the producer guy. It's like Michael is surrounded by people who are more like familial figures and more father figures or even like friends than his own father. So maybe it's really just there to contrast against
yeah.
the father, but there's really not much to these characters
No.
other than just them giving him sound advice and friendly advice whenever he needs it. The other thing that just makes this really entertaining to watch while you're watching it obviously is the music. I went back to watch some of these performances that they recreated because it's always interesting to see what they take liberties with and what they don't. And from what I remember and what I saw, like this actually stays pretty accurate and doesn't try to exaggerate things. Like he was just that good back in the day.
Yeah, I was a lot more convinced by this guy that he was Michael Jackson than I was Kingsley Benadir in that One Love movie where he played Bob Marley.
Oh, yeah, okay. Um, yeah, I think this is better than that movie. Maybe they're about the same. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the narrative that movie did a better job of portraying Bob as a human being, like he beat someone
That's true.
with a damn chair
That's true.
because they stole African tour money.
But then they do stupid crap where like he invents redemption song because a guy got redemption in his house
Yeah, yeah.
and like he decided to not be a criminal.
So they're probably on equal levels of hokey,
Yeah,
but I
that's
thought
true.
this guy was a more believable as the person than was Benadir, that Kingsley Benadir as Bob Marley.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about Bubbles at all?
Oh yeah. First of all, it's a damn cartoon, and it's like they have these real creatures who exist on this planet, and a lot of them are in Hollywood.
Yeah. I'm kind of two minds about this. First of all, the CG is actually really, really great when he's not emoting
Yeah.
and and like acting. I'll say,
Yeah, the facial expressions are not accurate to the way a real chimp moves. It looks cartoonish.
yeah, they need him to give certain reactions or to do certain things that they probably can't get a chimp to do on the day, or it's just not capable of doing.
Well, cattle prod will help sort that little bastard out.
So so they have this CGI chimp to do exactly what they need it to do. But when it's sitting there or when it's like walking around doing its thing, it looks fantastic. And then when they do the close-ups and he starts contorting his face and doing weird reactions and emotions, it's like, no, stop. Why are we doing this?
Hmm.
Just get a real chimp.
When did Bubbles and Michael Jackson part? Because I kept waiting for that to happen.
Well, again, it's one of those plot lines that's introduced like Michael's love of animals and he rescues Bubbles, and then he's there for like 2, 3 scenes, and then he just disappears from the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't. I didn't know if Bubbles parted before the Victory Tour, if they parted in the latter half of Michael's career when all the scandals go down. But I kept waiting for something to happen with Bubbles, but then he's just gone.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
They do a good job with the whole Michael never really got to be a kid, so as an adult he retreats into fantasy and
Yeah.
Disney and Peter Pan and toys. He makes various trips to the toy store.
Yeah, at least in, like, the early days, he actually was, like, very charitable and, especially after the Pepsi incident, like, he did donate, like, a bunch of money to that hospital and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um, of course, you have to take that with the other side that they don't talk about. It's like,
yeah.
was he doing these things out of the kindness of his heart, or was this, like, a pathway into darker things that we won't mention? But, yeah, that's kind of an aspect that I always have kind of bought into to a certain extent. That yeah, Joe Jackson was, like, such a horrible piece of trash, like I said, and he started extremely young and basically didn't stop and just kept performing, kept touring, and yeah, you miss out on a lot of things, so, you're right, they do a pretty good job of exploring that, I think.
Yeah, it's one of the few elements of his life that feels somewhat developed. Everything else is just pushed to the side
Yeah,
to make room for evil Joe Jackson versus Michael. Our audience was eating it up at the end of the movie
yeah.
when certain people get their comeuppance. They were applauding.
Yeah, that's another one of those things where I wonder how exactly that happened in real life.
Yeah.
Like, from doing some reading, Michael Jackson announced this thing at this performance. But obviously, in the movie, it's going to be dramatized quite a
Hmm.
bit. But I mean, it works. Like for the story, I was into it just because that really is the only thing you have to latch onto is like
Yeah.
Michael and his father.
If you don't finish that plot line up in a satisfying way, then this whole thing just feels like worthless.
Yeah, it's just like Michael's greatest hits? Question mark.
Yeah, ultimately, for the man who was called the King of Pop, I felt like he deserved a much better, more honest film than this. It's got a lot of good things going for it, but I think the negatives far outweigh the positives. It's ultimately a pretty mediocre film.
I pretty much agree. While you're watching it, it's easy to get swept away by like the music and the performances and stuff like that because the performances are really good and it's Michael Jackson's music. So I mean,
And to see it replicated so accurately, it just really wows you. Like, this dude was inhumanly good.
yeah, yeah, for real.
So, what is your final number rating on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would probably give it like a 6 or a very, very soft 7, like a generous 7.
Yes, I'm going 6 on this. I probably would have said 7, but like I said, the walk home
Yeah.
and me reflecting on it made me realize, no, that's a 6.
Yeah, the Don King scene was really kind of when my opinion started to shift into thinking like, okay, this is just a shittily written script because this is a really bad scene, but I'm also enjoying
It
it.
was
So
written by John Logan, who has done some quality and some real shit.
Yeah.
The same guy who wrote The Aviator is the same guy who wrote The Time Machine.
Oh,
And the same guy who wrote Hugo is the same guy who wrote Star Trek Nemesis.
oh man. Okay.
And the same guy who wrote Skyfall is the same guy who wrote
Oh,
Spectre.
yeah, that's rough.
Although I think he had co-writers on Skyfall. But yeah, he's got a pretty inconsistent track record.
Yeah. Well, add this to the mixed pile.
Yeah. So that's Michael. If you're a Michael Jackson fan, you know you're gonna see it. You know you
Yeah,
will.
you've probably already seen it.
You probably already saw it twice.